Good afternoon and welcome to Lunch Break with the Rabbi. Today is Monday, January 18th, the fifth day of the month of Shvat. And as we begin a new Torah reading, the book of in the third Torah reading of the book of Exodus, we continue to discuss the exodus of the Jewish people and Moshe's encounters with Pharaoh. Today, as we begin the next Torah reading, we look at an overview in the general attitude and verbiage and terminology that is used with Moses' conversation with Pharaoh, starting from the beginning all the way throughout, and especially coming to the last plague. The first thing Moses tells the Jewish people and tells Pharaoh, and the way God relays the message to Moses, is number one, the first, my children, the Jewish people, the firstborn, you better let them go. And again, God uses a terminology, the firstborn, Jewish child, my children, referring to the Jews as the firstborn. And again, in this week's Torah reading, after a year of back and forth, Pharaoh saying, I'm not going to let them go. I am going to let them go. We will let them go. A plague comes, a plague lasts, and all of a sudden, all of Egypt is up in debacle. And finally, Pharaoh lets the Jewish people go. But what is the final straw? What is the last bang? What's the last hurrah that all of a sudden Pharaoh then lets them decides the Jewish people to go? Is when God smites every one of the Egyptian firstborn and every Jewish child, the firstborn child, is spared. All of a sudden Pharaoh says, okay, hands up, guys, get out of here, no problem. What changed? What happened? What's so unique about this firstborn child? In fact, if we look at the Torah, there's the mitzvah because of this, that every firstborn child, she's dedicated to God. And you need to have a mitzvah to redeem the first child from the Kohen, which is known as a pidyon haben, redemption of your child, on 30 days after birth. What's with the firstborn? What makes it even more interesting and unique, that the Jewish people themselves, biologically, we don't come from the firstborn. We are actually the second child. We're the youngest child. When you look at Abraham's children, you had Yishmael, which was the oldest, Isaac, which was the youngest. The Jewish people come from Isaac, Yitzhak. If you look at Isaac's two children, Jacob and Esau. Esau was out first. Yes, Jacob bought the firstborn right, but at the end of the day, Jacob was not the oldest, was not born first. And the Jewish people come from Jacob. In Jacob's children himself, Moses and Aaron, the Kohen and the Levi, they come from Levi, was the third child. King David comes from Judah. All the kings of the Jewish people come from Judah, who was the fourth child. Joseph, who was the most favorite one, comes as the 10th child. Or he was the first to his mother, Rachel, but to Jacob, he was the 10th. So how is it that we take the youngest child and he becomes the greatest? And at the same time, the Torah refers to us as a firstborn. Which one is it? Is it the youngest? Is it the second child? Or is it the first child? So we know in the world and in everything in the way of life, usually it's the first child who takes over the family business, who becomes the one, so to speak, to hear. In most cases, all of investment is done in the firstborn. The firstborn is, so to speak, the power, the apple of the eye. Why is the firstborn so unique? And ordinarily speaking, is because the first one, he's the one that made you a father, he's the one that made you a mother, made you a parent, and therefore they are unique. There's a certain love and excitement about the firstborn that no other child has. At the same time, there's a certain vested energy that is in this firstborn as well, because he's the prodigy, he's the prime, and that child is going to be the one to be the role model for the rest of the children, we hope at least. And over here, what God is telling the Jewish people and is telling Pharaoh, and why it was so important, because as the Jewish people were in Egypt, they were enslaved for 210 years. Over here, Moses is getting the message from God to be able to relate to Pharaoh, that though the Jewish people, you think they have been neglected, 200 years, you're able to enslave them and pain them and hurt them. They are my firstborn. This is my grooming of my firstborn. This is my love. This is what my nation is. This is who I am. I am nothing, so to speak, without them. They will be the ones to receive the Torah. They are the unique quality of what it means to show and appreciate a prodigy of what will be. Don't you think that you can tie them, that you can force them into labor? On the contrary, this is all part of their grooming. This is part of their perfection. This is part of who they are to be able to be the Jewish people. Though they may be in Egypt, they are my firstborn. They are my most cherished. They are my love, and I will take them out of Egypt, be it as it may. And therefore, where did you see the true love? Where did you see the final breakdown in Egypt? Was with the plague of the firstborn, where God showed selectively, I smite the firstborn of the Egyptians and spare the one of the Jew. Because he brought it out into a physical tense and to appreciate that love, that unique, chosen beauty of the Jewish people and how the relationship is with God. But then what about the youngest? Why then are the Jewish people always from the younger ones? Why then are we from Isaac, from Jacob, from Joseph, from Judah, from Levi? What does that tell us? Because here's the difference between all of the different ones. Take, for example, Abraham. Ishmael was born with a natural birth. What was so unique about that? Isaac was a miracle. Every single time Isaac was nursing from his mom, Sarah, miraculous event happened. The very fact that he was able to nurse from her. When Moses was born, it was a miraculous event. His mother was 130 years old. The very fact of Jewish existence and survival today is nothing short of a miracle. Over here, the message that God is telling the Jewish people then and every single time and day and age is so important. You are the firstborn. I love you like my firstborn. You are the cherished nation. But remember, your existence is not independent. You are not self-made. You are not independent creatures. You have an absolute dependency on God on all times, in all places, in all ways, because you're a miracle. Your only survival is a miracle. The only way you've come to be is a miracle. From Abraham to giving birth to Isaac, from Isaac to Jacob, Jacob's survival against Laban and Esau, and all the other trials and tribulations he had to go through. The only way he made it, the only way he was able to survive was miraculous. Same ideas with Joseph in the land of Egypt, Moses in the land of Egypt, the Jewish people at large. Our survival by definition, we are the youngest, reminding us we are always a miracle. We may be the second child, but remember that second child has gotten that energy, that beating, that lesson, that they'll always remember their dependence on God. In everything we do and in every part of our life, we can sometimes fool ourselves and say, you know what? Life is great. Life is good. God, I don't need your help. I can do it without you. And every so often, as we can see right now, God throws us a curveball. God throws us all different kinds of angles to remind us we're a miracle. This week's Torah reading reminds us again, telling us we are the most cherished by God, but we are a miracle. But even more than that. This week's Torah reading begins as God tells Moses, come to Pharaoh. God doesn't tell him go to Pharaoh, but he says come to Pharaoh. Because God is telling him, when I send you on a mission, when I send you on a task, you're not going alone. I am coming with you. God is telling every single one of us, you are a miracle. You are most cherished. And therefore, every single time you have an objective and a mission to do in this world, you're not doing it alone. I am coming with you. God is with us in whatever we do. As long as we continue to remember that God is with us, God will continue to be with us. Boy, God is telling every single one of us, come with me and let us approach the pharaohs of the world, the restrictions, the constraints, the self-inhibited problems and trials and tribulations. Come, hold my hand. I'll walk you through it, and you will see the Pharaoh will just dissipate. Every single one of us has a Pharaoh in our life. Every single one of us has Egypt in our life. And God is reminding us all the way we'll get through it is by remembering that we are the youngest, we are a miracle. But at the same time, we are the oldest, that we are most cherished. And he walks us through. We go with God. He holds our hand as we step through any challenge that's in our way. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. And may we see God holding our hand, leading us through the greatest miracle of all, the coming of Mashiach. May it be now. Amen. God bless you. Wonderful day. See you again tomorrow. Lunch break with the Rabbi at 1 p.m.